Hello, David.
Oh, Michael.
Hey, what's up, man?
Good, good. Everything's good. How are you?
Doing good. Just still waking up. So I'm
Very
just
early.
drinking my coffee here. Late night, late Saturday night.
Oh, is it? All right. Okay. Fine. Fair enough.
So we can get started whenever you're ready, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about, man.
Well, not sure how this goes because I've never done it before, but I guess you can talk about boxing.
Yeah,
That would seem appropriate.
absolutely. Well,
Uh,
first of all, thank you very, very much for donating to the channel. I really, really appreciate it. And the support so far has been amazing. It's been surprising, you know. So yeah, just thank you once again. And it's David, right?
it's David, but David's
David.
fine.
Is it Polish?
Yes, that's
Okay, I
right.
thought it's Polish. Yeah, I recently took a DNA test and I found out I'm part Polish. So hey, cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of Polish after World War II that went to United States and settled there. So obviously, hence a lot of surnames that you know
Yeah,
sound Polish.
yeah. My hometown of Detroit, there were a lot of Polish in Detroit and in Chicago. And there were a lot of Italians coming at that time too. So you find a lot of people like me that are a mixture, that are Italian and Polish. So
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
anyway,
Um, anyway, I don't know. Today actually, I don't know whether you had a chance, but I watched Counterpunch. I just released on Netflix.
I heard about Counterpunch, but we haven't seen that. Me and Tiffany, she's over there. we were uh,
Uh,
we were talking about that. We were at a party last week, and people were telling us that we need to check that one out. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably my favorite boxing movie at the moment.
Really?
Documentary because it's
Right.
technically a documentary, but it's just portrayed in such a honest and real way. There's no too much bullshit around it,
Yeah.
and so well, that's the reason why I supported you because I myself am a person who likes to speak his mind, who's not afraid to challenge what he believes in, whatever. So that movie was, it was very, very honest, and it kind of showed you the good and the bad sides of the sport. So yeah, honestly, definitely good. It was a good watch because also they had Oscar De La Hoya, of course. They had who else? They had some fighters. So they had B Hop. They had some old school fighters as well. I'm not too familiar with the old school guys, but they had
Okay.
a range of and a lot of different perspectives. So you have your guys who fight for money, but you also have your guys who just want it for the glory, and there was a guy who just wants to make it to the Olympics. So it's really, really cool and interesting wee documentary to definitely give that a shot.
Thank you. Yeah, we got that one on the list. We have a few that we want to watch, but I've been hearing good things about that one. One thing about Oscar and Bernard with Golden Boy Promotions, they get involved in a lot of those documentaries, and they're very, very honest the way they tell the story of their
Yeah.
career. You know?
Well, there's also they released today, I think, the as a promo for the Canelo-Golovkin. They released today a promo on YouTube, so you can check that out. It's okay. It's only 13 minutes. It's
The I Am Boxing.
yeah, that's
They
right.
actually they premiered that at the press conference we were at.
Oh,
Was that
right.
Thursday? Yeah, Thursday in Hollywood, and it was pretty cool because they did it at a
Yeah.
theater, and then they had the red carpet thing outside, but then inside the
All right.
theater they showed that movie, and it was I mean it's kind of a long commercial for Canelo Golovkin, but it was pretty cool,
Yeah.
man. It was pretty cool, but yeah, it is what it is.
Well, the way I look at it is, the one thing I think as a whole boxing is missing is high quality production. There's no much. They like to make the money of the fights, and they
Hmm.
like to get the money from the tickets and everything else, but they don't like to put too much money back into other streams where, well, it's a kind of like an old school approach. I think a lot of older guys don't understand that building a brand is just a lot more than just getting money from the tickets. Building a brand is just doing all those small things that can take you further and gets you recognized. And so, you know, I think they're catching up. And like you said in your videos, Top Rank with the streaming service is catching up slowly. And they start to understand people don't necessarily like the way the things were done in the past, and there's new ways that people enjoy more. So yeah, anything that helps boxing, I'm always happy to watch and support. So
have you always been a fan of boxing, or
yeah, I mean, I think the earliest fights I can remember are probably when Galata was fighting for the World Championship heavyweight. And you know, to be honest, while he was not elite, I feel like if he had a better psyche, he could have definitely rolled with the guys. You know, his physique was just incredible, but mentally he just was never quite there, which was a shame.
He had a very good jab. He had, I think, very underrated athleticism. I think that first, because he was a big man, and for such a big man, he moved very, very well. And I think, are you talking about the first Riddick-Bowe fight when he fought Riddick-Bowe?
I mean, I faintly remember his fight, so I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly. But yeah,
you were just a kid during those fights, huh?
Oh yeah, I was just a kid.
Were you in Poland then, or were you in the UK?
Yeah, I was in Poland then. So
well, let me ask you: he was the first Polish boxer, at least in America, that really, really broke through on HBO, on the big premium cable networks?
Yeah.
Was that a big deal in Poland when he was fighting over here?
Oh yeah, I mean, to be honest, Poles are always very proud of anything with the sport, with any kind of sport. Whenever we have a person who breaks through, majority of people are very supportive and they'll get behind the person.
There you go.
Okay, we're back on. So we got cut off there, technical issues. I'm sure that was my fault. But we were talking about just the impact Galata had on, particularly with boxing. It seems that a lot of Polish fighters came out after Galata's success. Do you think kind of like if you look at what Manny Pacquiao did in the Philippines, and there were plenty of Filipino fighters before him, but he was the first to break through, and now there's a bunch of Filipino fighters. Did Galata do that for Poland?
Yeah, I think he did. The thing is, was it during Olympics in 1920s? There was a Polish fighter who grew up in 1920s. I could be completely wrong, but eventually he did end up fighting Muhammad Ali.
Okay. There's been other Polish fighters.
There's been a couple, and they were world champions as well. But it was nothing like him, where he got up to the big stage,
right? And
actually was promoted and got into this big fights with Mike Tyson and all that. But yeah, I think he was. And then after him, I feel like after he went away, Adamek was the one that kind of took over and carried it through until obviously he decided to become a heavyweight for some reason.
That's the dumbest thing he could have did. He made some good money. He just fought. He just fought in Poland. I want to say yesterday, a week or two ago.
I watched it. Yeah.
Okay. And
he fought yesterday, so.
Okay.
He fought this Australian guy, which it was listen, the guy from Australia, no disrespect to him, but he was not the highest caliber of opponent, and he could have, to be honest, I think at this point Adamek is just fighting for the money and just not to be remembered with a loss, because he lost the one with the previous fight. So that's that. But yeah, I think it's a shame, because I do think he could have carried in a lower weight class, and he would have been more than five. He was a legit fighter in the lower weight classes, but heavyweight. Let's just not pretend that putting on muscle will get you anywhere. It just doesn't work like that.
In this age, it doesn't work. If you go back decades, it worked. But, you know, a lot of the guys like Evander Holyfield who moved up in weight, there was a lot of performance-enhancing drugs involved. And now you just can't get away with that stuff. People still get away with things, but the drugs are different. They're not meant to bulk you up as much as they're meant to help with endurance and recovery, things like that. But Adamek, you know, he started as a light heavyweight. He was a titleist, but he was killing himself to make that weight. When he settled in at cruiserweight, I really thought he could have owned that division for a while. But like so many other fighters, they saw the money. You saw the money at heavyweight and wanted to move up. And, you know, right now there's a guy, Alexander Usyk, who already has a title. And he's already talking about going to heavyweight. I just think that would be the dumbest thing they could do. Cruiserweight's not a popular division in America. It's because the fighters always move up. If there was a fighter that would stay there and own that division for 5 or 6 years, I think he could build a brand there, and then people might become more interested. Usyk might be the guy, but if he moves up to heavyweight, it's a disaster. They're just too small. The heavyweights now, like these guys, they're huge. They're huge. You know, I'm a cruiserweight. I'm 6'4", and now I don't. You know, I'm out of shape. I walk around at maybe 215 or something. But if I was still fighting competitively, I'd be a cruiserweight. There's no way I'd fight at heavyweight. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna make a point. What did I say? Oh yeah, that's a question I would have for you. Is do you think there should be a limit on what the heavyweights could weigh, or should just be free for all? Because I do think that's a problem.
Right now, you know, in the Olympics and the amateurs, they have what they call super heavyweight. So it's somewhat different, but in the professional game, it's anything over 200. And I think it's kind of ridiculous that you can have a guy like, let's say, I don't know if you remember Jan-Mark Mormek. He was briefly the cruiserweight champion. He moved up, but he was barely 6 feet tall, and he fought Vladimir Klitschko, and it was a completely one-sided beatdown. Or even someone like Adamek, maybe 220, and that was a one-sided fight. The weight difference is too much, but I think one move heavyweight to 220 pounds or something like that. I don't know if you could put a weight limit on heavyweight. To this point, the heaviest good heavyweights have been about 250-something pounds. If you think of the Klitschko brothers, Lennox Lewis, even Riddick Bowe when he was real good. We talked about Galata. Guys like that, 240 to 250 in that range. The guys who have been bigger than that, they haven't been very successful. There was one 7-footer, Nikolai Valuev, a Russian fighter, who held a title. But to me, that was just the WBA bullshit, you know. If he fought the Klitschkos or somebody like that, he would have been destroyed.
So don't have that chance.
Yeah, I think that's the only problem. We already have so many divisions.
Catch-22.
Yeah, catch-22, exactly. So I think right now, if we start getting a bunch of 280-pound heavyweights that are good, you know, think guys like Anthony Joshua, Vladimir Klitschko, even like Deontay Wilder, guys like that. If they start weighing 280, 290, and they're 7 feet tall, then of course. But right now, I think it's manageable. And, you know, for these cruiserweights that move up in weight, they're taking the risk. It's on them. You know, the track record's there. It never works. It never works. But sometimes they just want the money.
Yeah, which is funny because that movie completely touched upon it. The kind of Mayweather effect where you have these guys. They think they can get the money, but they don't think to themselves, well, actually, to get that money, I need to have 15 years of fights and grind my ass off every day in the gym. And I mean, I never boxed as an amateur, but I did spar and I did train. So I know maybe 50%, maybe 50% of what these guys go through. So I can only imagine what it takes to be to that level where you have to really, live boxing for every day of your life, and then maybe if you're good enough, you can start, going up in the ranks and getting the title shots. I think that's one of the ways I feel like the problem is with boxing is they like to market the big fights, the big money, the big everything, but they completely don't show you the other side of the scale where you have probably really bad sparring sessions where some amateur beats you up or whatever. You have a night off, or where you're doing you have a injury, or it's just so many variables that I feel like it's just too easy for these younger guys to, because that was the issue raised. There's no fighters in US that want that aspire to be Olympians, but and so because they'd rather turn pro and go for the money.
It's a very, very complex issue. You talk about Floyd Mayweather, who was boxing in diapers. He came from a boxing family, and I've seen sparring sessions. There's one you could find on YouTube where he sparred, I think it was Paul Spadafora, who was a pretty good fighter, but professionally nowhere near where Floyd was, and he tuned Floyd up. He beat his ass. He was absolutely beating the shit out of him. But Floyd needed that sparring at the time. Floyd was out of shape, and you talk about sparring, there's all kinds of gym wars these guys go through over the years that builds them up. There's the amateur careers that builds these guys up. There's junior amateurs, and then there's kind of the regional level, national level, international, then global. Then there's the Olympics. There's so many levels to the amateur game. And then as a professional, sometimes if you took, Oscar De La Hoya, he won a gold medal, he was popular, he went pro with a big contract, right? Because he had that medal. Jermaine Taylor's another one in America where he kind of started his pro career making good money. Andre Ward came right onto American television when he went pro. But 99% of the other fighters, you're fighting a 4-rounder on an undercard, you're making $500. And you're giving, you're paying your trainer, your cut man, everybody else. By the time you walk away, you might have $200. And you're fighting, let's say at the StubHub Center here in LA, where you're the first fight on a 8-bout card. There's maybe 500 people there watching you fight. That's the side of it so many people don't know about. Or you're fighting at an Indian casino in the middle of nowhere, in Iowa or something like that, which is, the countryside here, in front of a few hundred people. You have to go through all that for years and years and years to get to the level where maybe you're challenging for a title. Some guys get a faster track record than others, but most fighters have to go through that. And it's kind of a catch-22, like you said before. We were talking about something else, but catch-22 applies here because when some fighters finally get to that level where they have a chance to make big, big money, they just see the money. And they just think, okay, this is my chance to make $5 million. Their whole life, they've had no money, nothing. That kind of money's so big, they'll sit on their butt for a whole year to negotiate that fight just to get that big money, and they stop being busy. They stop sparring often. They stop working out. They get lazy. They buy a bunch of cars and a bunch of houses. They spend all the damn money. Then they have to fight again and to make that money back. Some guys just lose that focus. And the one thing I could say about Floyd Mayweather is, I'm not a big fan of Floyd the person, but as far as his mental focus, his hustle, working out, he is one of the hardest workers I've ever seen, not just in boxing, but in sports, just period. He's a very hard worker and a very hard promoter, and I have to give that to him. A lot of his fans, they don't see that part. They just see the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why it's up to some of the media and the fans to realize and show the younger ones that actually this is not so simple, But
Right.
yeah, speaking of prospects, did you manage to watch they just released the PBC fight on YouTube for Borrego versus Watts.
No. They just released that today?
They released it 3 days ago,
Oh, okay.
actually,
Okay.
and I wanted to bring it to your attention because I thought it was a goddamn good fight.
I'll have to
And
check
the
it
two
out.
guys were prospects with like 10-0 or something, but they were both really, really good. And the Mexican kid, Jose Miguel Borrego, eventually won, but I was very impressed with him because of he's not a very fast kid, but he has the ability to put his punches together and goes a lot to the body. So I think that's what's going to make him stand out in the future. It's one thing that I think a lot of the fighters don't do and the gyms don't teach is go to the body. And I mean, when I sparred, I would love to go to the body. See, when you catch somebody with a good body shot, or you get caught with a good body shot, there's nothing like no other feeling like your air literally being dragged out of you, and you're like trying to gasp for air. It's just amazing.
Horrible.
Yeah,
it's a horrible feeling. It really is. And there's different kinds of body shots, right? If you get hit right under the ribs, have you ever had that one? That sucks. That's the worst one sometimes.
Yes.
If you reach and you miss, and then somebody gets you right, oof, that's bad. Especially if one of the moves I like to do, I'm tall, but I like to fight not now, but back when I was younger, I like to fight on the inside. I would drop my knees low and just shoot a straight right hand right there. Okay. And you'll be surprised how somebody will get back off you when you do that. But I agree. Body punching and inside fighting is not taught at a lot of these gyms. It's what I call cookie cutter combinations from the outside. And a lot of people focus on speed. And speed is very important. It's very important. But you can time speed. And once you get a guy's timing down, if you throw every punch with the same velocity, the same speed, you could time that, and you could slip it and come around. And, the one thing about that Ward-Kovalev fight, I thought some of the blows were low, but you got to give it to Andre Ward. He knows how to fight on the inside and make it rough in there.
Well, the comment I would have for that is, I think Ward probably would have won anyway, but rules are there for a reason, and you cannot just go with, oh well, he was on his way out already. You just can't do that. Rules are there to be followed, and you can't say, well, this or that. I just don't accept it as an argument. I mean, you follow your set of rules, and then if he would have counted him out, then fair enough. But he didn't, so. Again, that's just the way it is. I actually don't want to see another fight of those two because I don't think nothing is going to change. It's going to go the same exact way, and it's either going to be Ward on points or
the two of them together and their fans and their teams, the way it all works, it's just ugly. It's just all very ugly, and I think we can all move on. I feel bad for Kovalev because boxing politics really kind of fucked him in that whole situation. And I agree with you regarding the rules. It's up to the referee to enforce them. Sometimes the referee isn't helping you, so you have to retaliate. I actually saw an interview this morning with Vasyl Lomachenko, who was at that fight, I guess. And he was speaking English. His English is really pretty good now, which is very impressive.
Getting hang of it,
I know he's understood it for a while, but he was afraid to speak it publicly. But he did an interview in full English, and he said exactly what you said. He said there are rules in this sport. They shouldn't have stopped the fight. There's too many low blows. They should have taken a point. And I agree. I totally agree. But if you argue that with Andre Ward fans, they get mad. It's always one-sided. Both ways. Both ways.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's just one of those things. What can you do, The only thing he could do is retaliate. So Sergey Kovalev should have went right for the balls.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said in your videos. If you don't get the ref, you just make it your own, in your own interest, and try to make him realize what the other guy's doing. But yeah, to be honest, at this point, I'm not really in word to move on completely.
Yeah.
Go up, get his money fight, and retire. And I think it'll be actually better for the boxing, because the amount of stuff that comes out of this guy's mouth is just sometimes I just can't watch it. It's really difficult for me. The guy, it's like he makes up the bullshit on the spot, and then he actually makes himself believe what he says.
Yeah.
And then because he's so smooth with the words, and I'll give him that, he's really smooth with the words, he makes his fan believe that. So that's how it works.
People forget he's done a lot of commentary work with HBO and with other networks. So he understands how television works and how to think one thing and say another and do it smoothly, as you said. So he's very good at that. But I agree with you. The light heavyweight division has a lot of great prospects coming up. There's a lot of good contenders who are ready to start fighting for titles. There's a great fight coming up between Dmitry Bivol. I don't know if you've seen him, but he's a really good-looking prospect.
The Russian guy that knocks everybody out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he looks really good.
He looks great. He's just so solid in his offense. Yeah. It's just going to come down to, can he take a punch? But there's so many great potential fights. Yeah. I want to see those fights, and I think if Andre Ward is still at the top, he might kind of limit the action that we get. So maybe he moves to cruiserweight. That'd be interesting. Or one big fight and retire. I agree with you.
Well, the thing is, I don't think there's anybody in that division that can beat him at this time. I think he's like, I mean, you have to give it to him. The guy is fucking, he's got skills. You just cannot take it away from him. But at the same time, there's too much shit going around him where I'm just not interested in. I do feel like Kovalev, with his, I don't know whether you watch. Do you sometimes when you watch Floyd Mayweather's uncle Jeff boxing channel? They've got this kind of round table talk. So the guy, so they were telling, saying rather how out of shape he looked, and Stitch Duran was commenting how Andre bumped into his ribs with his shoulder, and that made them realize actually his body's quite soft, so we'll go to the body. But yeah, it's just the whole thing. I just don't think. I want to move on to Golovkin and Canelo, which I'm super excited about. I would respectfully disagree with you on the fact that Mayweather McGregor will take away from it, because from what I've seen on the press conferences, it's just fucking huge. It's just absolutely massive. So I don't think any self-respected fan of boxing will not change their mind about going from one fight to the other. So I think we're safe there, which again, I think it's good. It's really, really good.
Boxing fans, they know which fight they're going to pay for or watch. It's funny, this is our press kit just from the press conference the other day. They have a lot of good information. It's half in Spanish, but the reaction there in Hollywood was very, very big. And they did, I think they did one over in London. I think they did one in New York. I'm not sure if they went to Mexico or not, but they already, because of all the sponsors involved, all the international media, this is going to be a global boxing event. It's going to be very, very big. Among what we call casual fans here, I don't know if they have the same term in the UK, but just casual sports fans. Okay. Among the casual sports fans and some MMA fans who occasionally watch boxing, McGregor fight. They may be lords to that, but the boxing fans, yeah, they're not going away. So
Yeah,
it'll be fine.
well, yeah. Well, I have a friend here, and I was just talking to him, recommending them. He's more of a MMA, which is funny because I do agree that it would take a tiny fraction of those fans away to just because, again, it's that curiosity thing where you have, but. Yeah, I'd love them to. I can see this fight going in any number of ways. And by the way, on the record, none of them is by knockout. I don't think there's going to be a knockout there at all. If you know anything about boxing, you'll know these guys are way too skillful, way too smart to get with that one big shot. And might be knockdowns, but I don't think at all there's any knockouts happening in this fight.
I totally agree with you. I think it's going to go the distance. I think it's actually going to be a more technical fight than people realize. I agree with you with the skills. I think Canelo has underrated head movement and upper body movement, underrated skills, period, by a lot of fans. And I think Canelo is a natural counterpuncher. He wants you to come to him, likes coming forward. So their two styles work together, but they're both going to be defensive and technical. And I think that the first 6 rounds might be more dull than people expect. I think there's going to be some heated exchanges and some big shots landed in the second half of the fight. But I see a decision. And right now, I think it's probably going to be Golovkin by decision, close. One judge has a horrible score and gives it to, and then we have a rematch next May.
Yeah.
That's how I see it happening. But we're running up on time. I was going to say.
Okay. Sorry.
No.
Sorry, so much of that.
I get talking and I could keep going. Tiffany always has to remind me of the time. But let's wrap it up with like one last.